Hello, how are you? This is Matthew, and you are listening to Talk Radio Truth from the Booth from Halifax, Nova Scotia. If you've been following this show for the last 8 months, welcome back. To you, the first-time listener, welcome. This show was focused on sharing the stories of those impacted by the housing crisis here in the Halifax Regional Municipality and across the country. The stories told here are at times uncomfortable and upsetting. Take this conversation for instance. In early December, just 5 weeks ago, Robert Hiltz was found deceased in a tent in Kentville, Nova Scotia. Robert's sister, Michelle, is my guest today. Jen and I reached out to Michelle a few weeks ago with an invitation to tell their story on this platform, Talk Radio. It's about a 35-minute conversation. Michelle, it's been a while since our last contact. How have the last few weeks been for you?
It was rough, but now the month, it's just my head's starting to clear up a little bit. I'm still waiting for some answers. I haven't got the autopsy report back. That's going to be another month. And yeah, I reached out to Open Arms and didn't get any real answers. Got a little bit of runaround and the shelter that's up here that's supposed to help people. And I talked to the minister of the church today because my head's getting a little bit clearer to just find out exactly why Bobby got kicked out of the shelter, because I don't understand why people get kicked out of shelters. But they said he had like a few chances, and it was a mental illness that was affecting his relationship with other people in there, so they had to let him go. If they didn't let him go, then they were going to lose that basement part of the church. Well, I guess it was hard decisions made on their part, but I a little resentful, but I don't understand shelters either. So, what's your
overall opinion of shelters?
Well, I just don't think they're run properly. If someone gets kicked out, like there shouldn't. I know there has to be rules, but I feel like they need to have proper people that can deal with people that have mental illness and struggle with addiction. My brother struggled with pain pill addiction. Like he wasn't an addict out on the street. This was the first time he was ever homeless in his life, and it was due to his landlord wanting more rent money, which I'm going to be going into that a little bit with Revenue Canada, because he didn't claim Bobby for the last 6 years. So when he wanted the $400 rent increase, Bobby had a subsidy through housing, and if he would have wrote a lease for him, Bobby could have covered that part of his rent increase, and he refused to do the subsidy because he refused to do the lease because he didn't want to claim the money. So that put Bobby out of his home that he had for 6 years, and that put him out, it would be a year and a half. And that's what started his downslide for the mental illness part of him. And when you don't have a home, you can't maintain health, because he had some health issues. Fibromyalgia, he had rheumatoid arthritis, he had chronic back pain, and his mental illness was at an acute stage. His doctor had wrote him a letter, I think it was around the end of August into the 1st of September, saying he couldn't be outside in a tent, and the Open Arms shelter up here still wouldn't take him in. Assistance wouldn't help him with that letter to add to his income to help him find a place that he could afford. And yeah, it's just went down. Every door that he tried to get into, it just seemed to slam on his face. And a lot of it it seems like the homeless people have a stigmatism onto them. Either they're mentally ill or they're addictive. Well, I would be damn well addictive and mentally ill too if I was out on the streets without even having any illness or things. And I feel the shelters are somewhat judgy on people, and they tend to not look at the person as to why they are out on the streets. And the rules, well, if there's going to be rules, then maybe they should have people there that can handle the people that are coming in off the street, because they're not going to come in normal. Not from what I've seen up here in Kentville. Anybody would be out of their mind out on the street, especially when it's getting cold. And Bobby was 8 and a half months out on the street. He, last winter, a friend took him in and let him stay at his shed in his backyard. And talked him into buying this camper, and had all these ideas put into Bobby's head. It'll be easy to find a spot. And Bobby made payments to him, $4,300 for a 1979 camper that I'm not sure that, I think he got ripped off on that. But at the end of May, when he got done paying for the camper, the so-called friend got into a fight with him and kicked him off his property and refused to let him have his camper, because after Bobby had left, he went down and he said that he wanted $25 an hour for labor for removing staples that Bobby had put in his shed last winter to cook plastic up to keep him warm, and he wasn't getting his camper until he paid him $1,800 more. And, well, Bobby didn't have that, and the camper's still sitting up in the friend's yard, not friend, but still sitting up in the person's yard, knowing Bobby was out in his tent and cold, and he still wouldn't let Bobby have the camper, and he never ever signed papers over to him. So, yeah, I feel like he got taken advantage on that, and then he ended up, he went to 3 different tenting spots. He went up out of Kentville because of the street drugs, because his addiction was pain pills prescribed by a doctor, and Bobby was on a lot of pills for his bipolar, for pain meds, just a lot. Like, at the end, it's just a sad story, but he went out of Kentville to get away from the street drugs, and he went up on the mountain here, and it was a 25-minute drive. So he would stay away from what was happening downtown with the homeless and the street drugs, and he was up there 2 months, and he got asked to leave by the people that said they owned the land. I'm not sure if they even own the land. It's supposed to be Crown land, and they would give him a week, and they came back 5 days later, him and his son, and said he had to have 24 hours to get out. And then the RCMP showed up the next day and made him leave there. So then he went, came down from the mountain and didn't go right down into town. He stayed up in the woods, deep in the woods. I don't even know how he done that from the end of, the middle of August until the middle of October. He stayed in the deep woods, and something scared him, which I'm pretty sure something would after all that time, and he ended up running out of the woods from the tent, and he didn't want to go back to the tent, and then it was running into October, and it was getting cold, and I got him into a church shelter from a local guy that is supposed to help the homeless out up here, and he was in that shelter for 2 weeks, and one night he keyed a woman's car. I don't know why. He told me it was accidentally done, and he got charged for mischief from the police. And after that, they say he had to go because the woman went to the church and she was scared of him. So she said that if there was going to be trouble from the people that were going there, that they wouldn't be able to use the church, is what I was told. So then they wouldn't let him stay in there. So he ended up out on the streets, and that was the second weekend into October. And the police up here have no remorse or no feelings for any of the homeless people. They don't let them stay anywhere. Like, they kick them out of ATM places. They don't let them hang around town. And he was constantly walking and looking for places to be warm. And I couldn't keep him with me because I have my daughter and 3 grandkids living with me for the last year and a half because they're homeless due to not being able to afford a place. So I was pretty, with my hands tied on having him here. I would let him, he would come up on the weekends when my daughter and grandkids were gone to a friend's place, or if they were gone away somewhere, and I would let him come up and shower. But there's nothing for anybody, and he would get interspersed with his mental illness, and he would get angry at me sometimes. So he would go a couple weeks without talking, and he'd lose his phone. So then I would call the police, and I called the police 4 times in the last 2 months of Bobby's life to just find him, because he'd lose his phone or he wouldn't have minutes, and they would never let me know if they found him. One night they found him on the tracks, the trail up here, and they took him to the hospital. He had passed out. And I still don't know what from, because the hospital released him the next day, and he called his best friend to come and get him. And he just said they wouldn't keep him, and he went up there 2 other times to get help, and they turned him away, the hospital up here. And I feel like because they have a stigmatism on homeless people too, and they just wouldn't help him. He was going to a drugstore, and he would get pain meds that was prescribed to him from a doctor down in Gottingen Street. I don't even know how because his family doctor up here stopped him from getting his pain meds because he was abusing them at home, so he got put on methadone. And he wanted to get off the methadone, and he was supposed to be going for this Suboxone needle once a month. And I don't know when things shifted. That would have been around the 1st of June, but he didn't end up on that needle. He ended up getting kicked out of the clinic that they have up here for the methadone clinic, and referred him to a doctor down on Gottingen Street down in Halifax. And he went down there, and he got put on morphine. And I think he started off for 50 milligrams of morphine, and by the time when he died, he was up to 400 milligrams of morphine a day, and he had to go to the drugstore and pick it up because he was not allowed to carry no drugs on him. And he wasn't even allowed into the drugstore because he said something wrong to the girls, which I understand somewhat where they're coming from, but there's another stigmatism that they have on homeless people, or people that anyway, he got kicked out of there, and he had to go to the drive-through window every day to get his pill, and that was degrading to him. And finally, I don't know, a month and a half into just running around on the streets or coming up when he could at my place, one of the shelters helped him out with a tent. And he had the tent down at Miners Marsh. I'm not sure how long that was, but I know he was in a tent for the last month and a half, and he would never tell anybody where the tent was. And we were looking for him, his best friend and I, the weekend before he died, because we'd see him out around town and we'd know he was okay. Just sometimes he was unapproachable with his mental illness, so we just know he was okay. We didn't see him for 3 days the last weekend that he was alive, and I had called the cops on that Monday, and they told me that he was in a tent in Miners Marsh. And I was like, well, how long has he been in a tent in Miners Marsh? And they didn't answer me, and they just let me go. And his best friend was going down to go down the next morning to find him, and he had got up out of the tent and went to Needs. This was on a Tuesday, and he got a woman to call his best friend and ask him to come and get him. And his best friend got down and got him at Needs, and he had laid in his tent for 2 days in pain. So the cops that are supposed to be doing wellness checks, well, they're not doing wellness checks because he couldn't even get out of the tent for 2 days, and that's why we couldn't find him. And he was normal that day, as like his mental illness wasn't bothering him. It's almost like he knew something was happening or something. It's weird to explain, but he had a shower at his best friend's. He had something to eat. He wasn't out of sorts. He was exhausted. And his breathing wasn't right, and he kept on puffing on his puffers, and he wanted to go up to the lake and to his favorite spot at the lake and have a rest. And his best friend asked him if he wanted to go to the hospital before he took him back to his tent that night. And he said, no, what's the point? They don't help me out anyway. And then he told him I took him and he showed him where he made sure he knew where his tent was. That was something else that he never did. He made sure he knew where the tent was. And his best friend said he'd be down the next day to get him. And he said he wasn't going to let him sleep out in the cold anymore if it meant that we had to start taking shifts for him to sleep in the car with us at night. And the next day he went down and he found him in the tent, and he was gone. And it's just like every door got slammed in his face and there was no help.
I guess you must be somewhat curious as to the autopsy results based on what you just said.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the autopsy results. He, for 2 years, he's been complaining to his doctor about pains in his stomach, and he had a hernia, and he had brown spots on him, and his doctor wouldn't listen to him. And with all the pain pills and bipolar pills and pills that he's been on for the last 15 to 20 years, I just I feel like he had liver problems, but he had a doctor that just wouldn't listen. The health care failed him. He didn't see a psychiatrist for 7 years, and I still don't know why his doctor was able to prescribe his bipolar pills and not expect him to get any evaluations done. But he did it, and he didn't have evaluations done for 7 years, and then this summer, I finally talked him into going to a psychologist because I felt there was more going on than his bipolar because of the way that he was shifting, and he went through so many changes, like losing his home and being out on the streets. And I said, Bobby, with mental illness and the bipolar, I said, when your life is shifting the way it is, I said, it's going to cause you to either have to have different meds or get reevaluated. So I had him talked into it, and he actually seen a psychologist. And he had just gotten a call that Tuesday night that he passed away, that Tuesday afternoon, at his best friend's, who said he had a psychiatrist appointment the Saturday after he passed. He would have seen a psychiatrist. I feel he had a dual personality disorder that wasn't diagnosed in the 7 years that he went without the psychiatrist, but I also feel like his doctor failed him on that part, because a doctor is a doctor and a psychiatrist is a psychiatrist, and I don't know how one can take over another person's role and expect a person not to be normal. I lay a lot of blame on people here for this, and I feel like it could have been prevented, and that's the hard part of accepting it. It's hard to move forward when I have so many unanswered questions, and maybe when the autopsy report comes back, and maybe that might answer some questions, but...
You are listening to Truth from the Booth. My name is Matthew. My guest today, Michelle Hiltz. We will continue the conversation right here on Folked Up Radio after this quick break. The winter season. Heavy snow, ice accumulation, freezing temperatures, and wind chill. Frostbite, frost snip, and hypothermia increase at wind chill values below minus 27. At minus 34, it doesn't matter who you are. Not properly dressed for the cold, hypothermia in as little as 10 minutes. Winter storms are often called the deceptive killer, since many deaths can be attributed to indirect causes of adverse weather. Housing first, housing for all. Housing now. Talk radio with a focus. Truth from the booth. The intention? To provide a brief glimpse into unique, real-life situations. True stories, the good, the bad, and the unjust. Tens of thousands of listeners and hours of meaningful and relevant conversations. When you're ready to share your story, share it on Truth from the Booth. Saturdays and Sundays on Folked Up Radio.
This is Michelle Hiltz, and you're listening to Truth from the Booth with Matthew.
I know that you did some, of course, when something tragic happens at an encampment or someone passes in a tent, the media is there. I know that the media showed up and they spoke to you. Here we are a month later. If you, in that first week, is there anything you would have done differently? And I'm curious because we know the media uses conversations and they just put it in to fit their own narrative. I'm interested what you said to the media and what you said to the viewers and what was actually put back on television.
Just only little bits about Bobby, nothing about the shelters. They mentioned about the shelter turn him away, but the Minister of Housing is for Nova Scotia, John Moore. His office is up here, and Bobby went into him 3 times, and I've gone down to him 4 times to try to get help with my daughter, and we got turned away all 7 times, all times, oh, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do. I'm actually going to go down and take him a copy of my brother's death certificate and thank him for all the stuff he's doing for Nova Scotia, because this is what it's causing for all the, and they never mentioned none of that. They never mentioned that Open Arms had turned him away. They never mentioned anything about the hospital turning him away. They said that the Kentville police had found him and his best friend found him. I don't even understand how that even... They shouldn't have even been mentioned that they found him. His best friend's going through hell right now because of he found him, and they were give glorification to the cops for I don't know what reason. I wouldn't have done the news interviews. I wouldn't have done the funeral. I feel like everything got pushed on to me. I didn't have time to think, and it was pushed on to me a lot from the guy that was running the shelter that kicked him out of the shelter, because I had messaged him after he kicked Bobby out, and I said, you know, if you don't help him out or give him a second chance, he's going to end up dying, and if he dies, his death is going to be on your hands. And I messaged him, and the day Bobby died, and I said, so much for your shelters. I said, turned out, look how it turned out. I told you this was going to happen, and he got me to go down and talk to him, and I feel like he twisted my whole everything around and used my grief. He's the one that got a hold of the news. He's the one that pushed for the news. I told him when I first went to talk to him after I was calmed down and after he was trying to explain why he kicked him out, I told him, I said, Bobby's story is going to be told, and the truth is going to be told. The truth is going to be told. And then he just went right ahead and got a hold of the news, and I just, everything was too fast. I hated the news, the interviews. They weren't what I wanted to do, and it's not what I wanted to be said, and then I reached out to you.
I think, and I'm glad that you did. Jen and I are glad that you reached out. This is for radio, but I would give you the opportunity to do an in the moment with me. I know you're in the Kentville area, but the technology allows us to do a split screen. So if you ever want to do an on camera with me, I'll put that invitation out there as well. Jen, you want to add anything?
Well, it's just lovely to be able to talk to you again, Michelle. Now, when we talked, that was just after everything happened, and, you know, a lot of grief. What struck me was the devastation in your voice.
Oh my gosh, well, because I've been pleading for him for months and trying and you know, running him down to open arms every day, knocking on the door. Is there a bed? No, we don't have a bed. That was going on since August. It's like, holy crap. And then one of my posts that I put on Facebook, because I was on helping end the homeless group that they have, and I posted in there, and one of the girls from Open Arms, I got messages, actually reached out to me, and that was the 1st of November. Well, I'm going to reach out and help your brother. Okay, he was still on the tent December 4th, deceased, and that was November 4th, and I don't know of any meetings they ever had with Bobby, and they never ever talked to him when he went to the door. I don't know what the criteria is for getting into shelters up here, but it's very frustrating, and I'd like to see some changes. I don't know if there ever will be, but it's shameless. I don't know.
So from my experience, the reality that we're living right now is, for people who are living rough and have complex needs, we don't have a system in place to help. And as you've seen firsthand, the barriers that exist between healthcare and unhoused people are huge. Relationships have been broken. The unfortunate part is stories like Bobby are going to be the foundation, I hope, to make a change.
You know, he said to his best friend, he said, you know, when I get better, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make a change and my voice is going to be heard. That's what he said to his best friend like 2 weeks before. Like, it's crazy. And then I was like, I'm going to tell his story. And I would like to see some change. I would not like to see this happen to anybody again. It's been happening too much. It's devastating. All of it's devastating.
Well, it was. We could see where this was going from last winter. We know that there was going to be more deaths of people in tents. And the unfortunate part is it's not always, from my experience, the media doesn't cover and have all the facts sometimes, or they don't cover it at all. You can't find out about any of the deaths. This is a population of people that deserve the same amount of dignity and care as anyone else. And when this happens, it's a tragedy for the whole community. And the community needs to be around you and your family and his best friend. It's devastating. It's devastating.
I just was looking at your social media, Michelle, and I just want to use one of your direct quotes. No one deserves to be where Bobby was ever. Now, I'm just wondering, I want you to expand on that, but are you talking about dying alone in a tent or the circumstances that Bobby found himself in?
the circumstances that Bobby found himself in, from the greedy landlord to the so-called friend to the failed health care system to everything. Like, doors being slammed in your face, you're facing homelessness, and you're out on the streets, and you're having people turn you away. I can't imagine where his head was. I cannot imagine where anybody's head is when they're out. It's one thing to face elements in the spring and summer, and that's hard enough, especially with the way the weather. A lot of rain this summer. Like, I never checked the weather so much as I did since Bobby became homeless out on the streets, and it's sad. And then I started watching you, and I'm just like, I just can't. Something needs to be done, and and now I'm here, and I can't even believe that I'm actually talking, because I was listening to you all last winter and watch, and I'm like, and then this happened, and then I'm like, wow, well, maybe I was meant to watch all this, and I don't know, but here we are, a year later.
Robert was your only brother. You say
Yes.
You say on social media that you had a complicated relationship with him. How do you, taking all that into account, how do you move towards some type of closure? No proper goodbye.
I don't know yet. I have a lot of guilt because I wasn't able to help him. I was trying to work through that. I hoping that the autopsy will give me some closure, and I need his story to be told. I don't want people just to think that there's like stories up here, he got beat up, he overdosed, he done this, he done that. It's more to them than just, oh, this and this, and I'm tired of it. Like, it's got to end. No one deserves to be. No one, I don't even care who you are, deserves to be out on the streets. Everybody deserves to have a roof over their head, like a home, a place to call home. How does anybody maintain any kind of lifestyle or any kind of looking after themselves when they're worrying about where they're going to sleep every night and safety? Like,
I find it alarming that individuals passing in tents outside in the elements, it's almost normalized.
Built 20 pallet shelters up here, and no locals got any of them. I don't understand what the criteria is for getting into them either, but Bobby never even had a chance at one of those, and those just opened up in October up here. I just don't understand none of it. Like, if they're going to build for 20, then maybe they should build for 40 and 60 and find out how many they need to build, and maybe they should start putting more work into getting the help that they need for these people. But this can't be the new normal.
Well, we already know the numbers of unhoused increases every day. My goodness, I've been covering people living in tents since August of 2022.
Well, Bobby never even had an air mattress, and he never even had a heating source. Like what you guys do for them down there is nothing up here. They get nothing. Like, I see them, like, the other day I was downtown, and there were 4 people huddled down by a building to get warm. There's no warming centers up here. There's nothing. I couldn't even believe he didn't even have an air mattress, not a heating source, nothing. Just a tent and a little tent on the inside of the big tent and some blankets. I don't even think he had a pillow.
Yeah, no, it's deadly conditions.
It is. It is.
Your social media, the last few weeks, you've been putting up a lot of photos that you have taken of a red cardinal. What's the significance of a red cardinal, Michelle?
Well, they say it's a sign from a loved one, and I go down to Liverpool to a friend of mine's down there. She lives by Beach Meadows, and it's beautiful, and I go down there to get away, so I went down after Bobby's service, and she feeds birds. But this cardinal came, and it was like, I don't know, a week after Bobby had passed, and it was like posing, and she's like, we haven't had cardinals here. Like, we didn't have them last winter. And she said, and they're so skittish, we don't even get a chance to even, to get pictures, and the pictures that you're getting amazing. Do you think that is Bobby? Because she's spiritual too. And I was like, I don't know, because at first my grief, I didn't feel I was deserving of anything from Bobby, because I couldn't have him here living with me, but I'm starting to work through that. But yeah, the poses and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, that's got to be Bobby. And and it just kept coming, like every time I'm down there, it's there. And then my aunt had passed away December 31st. I'd been going out to the nursing home to see her, and I don't know, like 4 days after she passed, or the first day I took the female cardinal, that female cardinal appeared, and I had said to my friend, I'd love to see a female. I said, if that's Bobby, I said, I would know that my aunt would, and all of a sudden this female one was here the next day, and I was like, wow. And so, yeah, I feel he's a little at peace, but I'm not at peace. I think that things need to be addressed, and people need to take accountability for some things.
And that's on your to-do list for 2025. I'm wondering, I should have asked you this at the very beginning, Michelle. I like to ask all my guests, on your mental wellness, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now?
Probably around 5 or 6.
Okay. Do you have people checking in on you on a regular basis?
I do have a pretty good support system. I've been shrinking away from people a little bit, like trying to just. I've been going in and trying to spend a little time to myself, because I don't have the time to myself because of. So, but yeah, I do have people that are reaching out to give me support. If I'll take it. Actually, I have a psychologist that I've seen for 10 years, and she retired, and she had reached out to me after my brother had passed, and she's right by the phone waiting. So I have lots of support, but I feel I got to get answers, and I got to get some closure before I can move forward. And I do got some to-do list things on my list to do, and yeah, it's every time I do something, one thing gets crossed off, I feel a little bit better.
Well, that's good. And I know that one of your social media posts, the holiday season is not always holly and jolly. There's grief, financial stress. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was this Christmas, obviously much different than every other Christmas prior, but how important was it to be with family?
I didn't. Well, my grandkid's dad lives up in Ontario, so he came home, which was perfect timing, because my head wasn't in the right space to try to pull any Christmas meal offer this year, because I usually do that. So he came home for 3 days and got an Airbnb. So the kids had gone with him, and my daughter and her boyfriend had got an Airbnb, so she could have some time alone to deal with losing her uncle. And I went to my aunt's on Christmas Eve, because she had just lost her husband, and it was her first Christmas without him this year. And we actually sat around and we talked about Bobby and talked about family, and we listened to Christmas music and listened to some good old country tunes. And then I went down to my friend in Liverpool's on Christmas Day and had dinner with her and stayed the night and come home Boxing Day. I got a little backlash from a few friends that said I was running away, but I feel there's no right or wrong way to grieve, and I got judged by a couple people for not being around at the holidays, but it's how I got through them. I did the tree up, and I had the tree done for the grandkids, and the shelf was done for Christmas. I usually decorate, but that was all I managed to pull off, and then everything come down on December 26th. It was rough.
You said once that people's true character shows themselves. And in a situation like this, the fact that you're using the word backlash from people on social media as to what you do or do not do, I just find, I don't even know the right word for that, upsetting.
It is very upsetting. I've lost a couple friends because they say that I'm not positive, and that I'm selfish by taking off, and I'm a positive person, but someone that's had a daughter and 3 grandkids living with them for the last year and a half, and watching what my brother went through for the last year and a half, but the last 8 months, it's really hard to find positivity. It's really hard.
And having your friends give you backlash for that, for the decisions that you make in that moment, as well, again, going back to people's true character sometimes.
True characters, yeah. And, I said it wasn't a good time to be mad, and I forgive, but I don't forget.
I'm hoping that this last 35 minutes has given you a beginning launch pad that you can continue to tell your story. I know that the system failed Bobby. You know that, so I know that you're going to continue to tell his story. I know that you had mentioned about taking a break from social media. So I'm just wondering, as you move forward, how do you plan on continuing? Because you can certainly use this platform here to continue to share the story, because you want to get the true story out there, not a soundbite on the evening news. So how do you continue to be the voice for Bobby?
Well, the social media part, I'll keep that to do Bobby's story. That I was like more so myself, to try to get myself back, because I find social media, it takes you away from people and it takes you away from real conversations. So I've been trying to leave my phone in the car when I'm around friends and stuff, so we can actually have conversations instead of always looking at our phones. And so that's what my post meant by trying to ease up on being on my phone all the time, and let's just spend more time getting real and maybe connecting real and having real words with people. Maybe they might listen better. I don't know. And then I was thinking about doing some volunteering, but I'm not sure I want to help the volunteer up here because of the way Bobby was treated. So I'm just up in the air. But there is one woman up here, Jody Bishop, that helps. She reminds me of you two down in the city with the way she helps up here. There's no judging. She's the first one that got Bobby his tent at the first of the summer and set him up with everything. And she's just called Friends of Kings, and they help out everybody. And yeah, she would probably be the one I would volunteer with before I would volunteer to help any of the other organizations that are supposed to help people.
I really hope, I'm glad that you are in the vein of wanting to help out organizations and volunteer, but I really hope that you can look after yourself first, yes?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would do that.
And really, this is why I do my radio program, Truth from the Booth. This is why I do the live streaming in the moment. It's to hold organizations accountable for what they are doing and what they're not doing. So good on you for continuing to tell the story, and I really appreciate your time. And like I said, the invitation will always be there for you, Michelle, to come back on this broadcast and just keep people updated. I've said many times, when it comes to making policies, regulations for the unhoused and rules and all that stuff, we need to have a roundtable discussion. But we need to bring people who are actually living it, experiencing it. They need to be at the round table as well, because that is the most vital, crucial input that you're going to get. You're not going to get it from someone who's in a 3-piece business suit with a 6-figure bank account.
No, you're not. Absolutely not. Nope.
Michelle, I hope you continue to heal, and please reach out to Jen. You have Jen's number. Michelle, all the best. Please stay in touch.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing an all too familiar tragic story. What we continue to deal with is a humanitarian crisis. People going without the security and dignity of being inside a home, dying in tents out in the elements. Shameful inaction by those whose responsibility it is to look after its citizens. Felicia LeBlanc is one of the incredible people behind the Facebook page Helping End Homelessness in Nova Scotia, and they are my guest tomorrow. One visit to that page will tell you everything you need to know about the dire need for help and who is stepping up. Thanks for letting me be a small part of your day. I'm Matthew. Back to the music on Canada's #1 folk station, 99.9 FM Perth Andover, and folkedupradio.com. Hello, how are you? I'm Matthew, host of Talk Radio, Truth from the Booth, originating from the beautiful port city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Truth from the Booth is celebrating a milestone. It was a year ago this weekend that this show began airing on Folked Up Radio in Perth and Dover, New Brunswick. Thank you to station manager Mitch Bigger for allowing me to share stories on this platform. Let's continue. My guest today was on the show in early January, shortly after the tragic and preventable death of her only brother, Bobby, who was found deceased in a tent in Kentville, Nova Scotia. Michelle Hiltz shares what the last 5 months have been like for her. This conversation was recorded last night while Michelle was enjoying the beach in Liverpool, Nova Scotia. Michelle, I appreciate your time. Thanks for speaking with me.
Yes.
So you were on the show as a guest back in mid-January and under just tragic circumstances. It was less than a month after your only brother, Bobby, was found deceased in a tent in Kentville, Nova Scotia. And that's why you're back here today. This is a one-year anniversary weekend for Truth from the Booth, and I really wanted to bring you back into the conversation because this whole talk radio program started because I wanted to continue the conversation of the unhoused crisis, and you are one of those individuals that was watching what I was doing at Grand Parade Square, and then you were part of that narrative of individuals. Do you want to, I know it hasn't been, we're talking 5-6 months here. I don't know if you want to go down that path and maybe tell the listeners who may be listening to you for the first time, or you just want to pick up from where we left off. Whatever you want to do, Michelle.
I think we should pick up where we left off.
Okay.
Just do a little history on Bobby, but yeah.
Okay, so we're going to bypass the history. What I can do is I can definitely direct people to that conversation if people are looking for it.
Yeah.
I can make sure I get it up on the website. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. So let's get right into it. I want to ask you, I ask this of all my guests, on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, Michelle, where is your mental health?
Mental health is about, 7, 8. Getting better.
Okay, so what are you personally doing to improve your mental health on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and just moving forward? How are you doing that?
Well, I've been doing some exercises as I've been speaking to your wife a few times with my grief. She's been really helpful. The exercises I've been doing got me through a lot of guilt that I was feeling because I couldn't help Bobby in our relationship that we struggled with, and the whole sadness of Bobby. The guilt was rough. I've never experienced guilt like that, and went through a couple exercises, made me realize that I did the best I could, and it wasn't me that failed Bobby. It was the system, all the way around, and trying to move forward from that. It was a struggle, but it's getting a little better, making me see things clearly. Anger is not there so much. Anger takes a lot of energy, so that has subsided, and quite a bit. It'll still be there, I'm sure, but not anywhere near it was. And tomorrow will be 5 months that Bobby. It'll be the 4th of May that Bobby's been gone.
5 months. Okay. The guilt that you were carrying. What can you just briefly talk about one of the exercises that you did that helped with that?
A rock exercise. I went and found a rock that was heavy to carry, like a heavy load. So I wrote on it when I was feeling the guilt. Just words, everything that come to my head, I'd write down on that rock, and I think I did that for about a month, and then when I was ready, when I started seeing the difference in how I was feeling about the guilt and where the guilt was coming from, I threw it in the water, and then I picked up another little rock that wasn't heavy to carry that that was a reminder of how far I'd come with the exercise and my feelings of guilt and stuff. So yeah, that helped a lot. And then the next one after that was to write about Bobby and I. And yeah, when you write down things and you see things, bring some things into perspective, and kind of got me away from the sad part, because I was just dwelling on the sadness of Bobby's death. It was not. It could have been prevented. He got his autopsy report back. He died of hypothermia and coronavirus. He had no drugs in his system. I wondered if Bobby was doing his outside drugs besides his prescription medications, but he wasn't. He wasn't even on some of his medications that he had been prescribed. I'll never know that, but it was -2, and that night that he passed, and I found it hard to grasp that he had hypothermia, but the family doctor explained it with coronavirus and being sick and being out in the elements, and the temperature drop would have caused a hypothermia, and then he would have went fairly quick. So I lived with the guilt of the arguments that I had with them, accusing of being on drugs, with that autopsy report. So that exercise, it helped me a lot. It was, in talking to your wife, helped a lot. To have somebody outside the circle helps a lot. Someone that's not inside, I found that really, really helpful, as to talking to friends or leaning into family. So, yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad to hear that. Does that, with the results of the autopsy, the exercises working with Jen, are you closer to getting some closure?
I am closer to getting closure. The camper, he had a camper that he had purchased that got sold. I've put that behind me. I wanted to do this and that, and I was going to do this and that, but doing this and that isn't going to bring Bobby back. And it's like I said, it takes so much anger. So much energy to be angry. And I always had a saying that my mom always said, what comes around goes around. So I'll just bank on that, and I've been moving forward. And I come down to Liverpool a lot, to a friend's place, and she lives by the beach, and it's just something about the water and just relaxes me. So I've been healing through that, and speaking to your wife and doing exercises and moving forward.
It's the exercise that you did with the rock. I encourage you to continue to do that exercise. I did the exact same exercise when
amazing.
It is. It helped me deal with the aftermath of the 108 days at Grand Parade Square. It's a great exercise. I ended up going down to a nice little spot in Point Pleasant Park. And I could probably take someone there now, but it's gone, and it's really, it was like a weight was being lifted. Literally and figuratively. It's just a great exercise. So some closure, that's good. Now let's jump to where you're from, Kentville. Do you, as a resident of Kentville, do you have, what's the latest on the ground with the unhoused in your area? It's springtime. We know numbers. We know people are going to be back out on the street. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing them out on the streets in Kentville. No one cares in Kentville. It's sad. Open Arms, a shelter that's there that wouldn't take Bobby in. I was going to try to take them on, but they got privacy clause. And I'm telling you, I come up against that with everything. I tried to reach out to them after he passed away, and they wouldn't tell me anything about whether they talked to him or not because of privacy clause. And I also received an ambulance bill on from November 4th. That was the night that I had called the police to report him missing, and they were supposed to call me and let me know they found him. They didn't call me, and they didn't even let me know that he needed an ambulance. So I tried to get a hold of I got a hold of the ambulance, and they won't give me any information on why the ambulance was called because of privacy clause. So like I said, I was going to go and do all this, but I'm coming up against walls. I called the police and asked how come I wasn't notified about the ambulance, and I wondered why they never even notified me because I reported him missing. And I asked if she could go back to November 4th, and she said it would be too much work, and I said, how is it too much work that you could just go on the computer and find out who's on duty so I could ask them why they called an ambulance? And I could ask them why they didn't call me. And she said I would probably get better information and help from the hospital. Well, I didn't even bother with the hospital because I feel like that's just going to be a dead end too. So I just can't be putting any more energy into these privacy clauses. I'd like to see some changes on the open arms shelter. The police are there all the time. I mean, all the time. There's overdoses. There have been 2 overdoses there since Bobby passed away. I don't know what the workers in there are doing. I know what they're not doing is helping drug addicts and mental health. You see a couple of people around Kentville that you can tell they have mental health issues talking to themselves, throwing their arms up in the air, and the cops just walk by them. And it's sad. And I don't know. I don't understand. There's just no help. The local library is talking about closing down because a lot of homeless hang out in there. They probably won't so much now, it's warmer weather, but they hang out in there and charge their phones. Well, they don't want them in there, so they're threatening that they got to be out of there or they're going to move. And there's Tan's coffee shop. They go in to sit down, but they're not allowed in there because there's fighting that goes on. But nothing seems to be done. I don't understand. It's like the cops turn a blind eye to a lot, and so does Open Arms. And yeah, I don't know why they're open. And I called the Human Rights of Nova Scotia so I could see if I could talk to somebody that maybe could help me get some information regarding the ambulance bill, or the ambulance call and why it was called, and maybe help me open up a doorway to talk to the people at Open Arms. But I never got no call back from them. So I feel like maybe I feel like Bobby felt when he kept getting doors slammed in his face. Because it just seems to continue on even after death. The homeless still can't get any help or anything. It's sad.
So I want to ask you, how did Bobby's death change your relationship with friends? Are there friendships that are destroyed or repairable? And if I'm getting too personal, please let me know. I'm just wondering.
No, my friends, they've been great. They've been understanding. I've been distant. I'm starting to reach out a bit more. So everyone's been understanding. It's been wonderful. I have great support system, but I found I wanted to be alone a lot. I still do. Oh, I got a book too that your wife got me to get. The Hard Road to Sorrow. Anyways, amazing book on grief. It makes you look at grief in a different way altogether. I'm not done reading it yet, but I'd recommend The Hard Road to Sorrow. Thinking about it. Yeah. But anyways, that's another exercise that she got me doing, and that's helping a lot.
Yes, it's a good read. I want to ask you about your levels of loneliness. And the only reason I ask, I went through your social media, and a lot of these talking points are things that you've already posted. So nothing is a surprise here, but I'm curious that you just mentioned levels of loneliness. When you experience those levels, I know you have a good connection with friends, but who are you leaning on those different levels of loneliness, if you can explain that?
Myself a lot. I have a friend that I lean on sometimes, but I just go to the beach a lot, and I walk on the beach, and I do a lot of thinking and relaxing and meditating. I know that my friends and that are out there, but I feel, because I don't have my family, because my mother's gone and Bobby's gone, and he was my only brother. So I'm close to his best friend, and he's my biggest support system, and my friend in Liverpool is my biggest support system. But when I feel like I get better results when I'm by myself, when I get lonely, because I don't have my brother or my mother. So I do feel lonely, and there's really no one to replace that. So I have my daughters, but the relationship's kind of been, it's just been hard for everybody since we lost Bobby, and it's been kind of strained. My daughter's was living with me, but she finally has found a place with housing. She'll be moved out by this coming weekend. I went through a little spell the last couple weeks wishing that it could have been 5 months ago. That was what prevented me from having Bobby with me, was having my daughter and 3 grandkids with me. So with a lot of pushing and fighting with low-income housing up here in the valley, after my daughter had signed rights over to me to speak for her, I finally got her a place, 4 bedrooms. We found a vehicle, a friend of mine, and my best friend's brother and I went looking, found her a vehicle because she didn't have one that is reliable to get her up and down from where she's moving to, and things are moving forward. I'll have my place back to myself. But I was sad because I was just thinking, like, what if? But what ifs don't help, and then I got back into the mode of where I was before I got the news of my daughter, because I'm going to go through different emotions. It's only been 5 months, but I wish that it would have been 5 months ago that she got a place, and that's another system failure. She was on the list for 2 years. She should have been in one long before this. So it's a wacky system that we have going on.
In the show that we did earlier this year, you said that 2024 was the worst year of your life. In a post here last week, you said things are starting to look up. Were you talking about your family finding housing and, taking a turn for the better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Family, like me getting my place back. I'll have it to myself. Thinking about moving out of Kentville. I can do that now that I don't have my daughter and grandkids living with me to rely on that spot. I think I might want to move down to Liverpool way if I can find a place that's affordable. But yeah, that's in my future, to get out of Kentville. It's hard living and seeing stuff that reminds me of Bobby and people that need help, that it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So yeah, I want to move forward, and that means moving on. I also reconnected with my brother's ex-girlfriend and his stepdaughter. So she lives down Liverpool way, his ex-girlfriend. So I'll be planning on spending more time with her. We spent a day together, went and visited his stepdaughter down in Matagan, reconnected. I took her one of Bobby's fishing rods. He taught her how to fish when she was young. So it's sad that people lose touch, but Bobby's death has brought us back together, and it's like my extended family coming back together. I wish Bobby was here to enjoy it, but I know he sees because I'm very spiritual. I'm getting signs, some good signs from Bobby. So
let's talk about just a few more things. I know it's a gorgeous Saturday night. I'll let people know there's no secret when these are recorded. But I know that the areas that you go to, the beaches, you take videos, phenomenal pictures. But I know that you're also a big fan of red cardinals and eagles. What's the significance of those to you?
Oh, I feel like that's Bobby, just around when I'm feeling down or something. Eagles, like Easter Sunday, the Eagles. I went over to the cemetery and to see my brother and Bobby, spend some time over there Easter Sunday, and I was upset. So I got driving, and then there was all these eagles in the field, and it distracted me, and I was like, I thanked them both. And the cardinal comes around when I'm like just thinking down a little bit, and then it perks me up. And crows, I notice crows a little bit more so too lately. One, especially when I'm over at Kingsport and I'm really feeling down, it comes and it does a loop and it goes back, and I'm always in the mode of thinking then about Bobby's sad part, and I feel like every time I see that bird come in front of me and then go back, I feel like it's Bobby telling me to move forward and stop looking back. So those signs help a lot when you believe in them.
We know you have said in this program, you said it months ago, that the system failed Bobby. So
yes.
How do you continue to be a voice and advocate for Bobby?
I haven't done any of that yet because I've been coming through the grief part. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that yet, but yeah, that's still playing on my mind, but one step at a time. Don't want to get too far ahead.
You said that there was a noticeable increase individuals on the streets where you live. Where I live here in Halifax, on my way home from work, I go by the Barrington Street encampment. Every time I go into the city for nearly 4 years, I have been going by down this particular road, Barrington, right into the city. And I can tell you, as of this evening, there's like 5 structures by the bus stop. I've seen multiple people there as of this evening, and there's 2 structures now down over the embankment. I don't know if you follow my live streams or my radio program, but
I do.
The new steps that they put in, they're now being used because there's 2 individuals that have set up camp down along the green space along Barrington. And Michelle, I am going to put those 2 male individuals, late 50s, early 60s.
There's a couple. I've seen a couple down here in Liverpool, and this is the first time I've come down here for 2 years. I've seen 2 today, and they're down. It's happening down here too. It's people are in Kentville, but they're in tents and they're out of sight because they're not allowed to do anything in Kentville. They get moved. They get shoved away. They get harassed. So anyone that is, they got their tent hid in woods. But like I said, every time that they try to get comfortable, they get moved. There's nothing for them. It needs help. I don't know how it's going to happen because people seem to turn a blind eye to things and have rose-colored glasses when it comes to things that are happening in the real world. And if people would just come together and help. I mean, you can donate all you want, but that's still not going to help. You got to get some housing going on, some affordable housing. You got to have some mental health help. You got to have some addiction help, and you have to have understanding social workers and workers that go out on the street, not people that are just doing it to get paid. It's a vicious cycle.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes, it is. It's well, I saw my first unhoused individual when I was 7 or 8. That was the early 80s. Here we are, 2025. I'm 52, and we're still in the same situation. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. We just need to manage it better. We need a larger round table, and there needs to be every conceivable player needs to be there, especially those that are living it in real time and are having their real life Hunger Games happening here in 2025. Michelle, thank you for giving me some time this weekend and being a part of my 1-year anniversary Truth from the Booth. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll have some closing thoughts after this quick break. Halifax, Nova Scotia, home of talk radio, Truth from the Booth, an ongoing awareness campaign keeping Canada's housing crisis on the front burner and in the moment right here in the Halifax Regional Municipality, the Maritimes, and beyond. True Real life stories told by those living it, existing in the streets. They bear all and provide you a brief glimpse into an unimaginable world of misery and disappointment, resilience and triumph. Hear from those with boots on the ground advocating for change now. The stories of the unhoused need to be told by them to educate you, all of us. Hear all the conversations Sundays at 10 a.m. with a repeat at 6 p.m. here on folkedupradio.com. Okay, I'm back. Are you celebrating any type of anniversary this weekend? Because like I mentioned less than 30 minutes ago, this is an anniversary show. 1 year of dedication, helping to continue the dialogue for the unhoused, delivering shows with a focus here in the Halifax Regional Municipality. Real life stories on the weekend on a folk station. Now, Truth from the Booth is gearing up for a second year, storytelling with you as the lead. FYI, in the coming weeks, the discussion will include long COVID. It is a nasty beast. Please engage with me through the website, sponsor a show, or be the show. You know, be a guest. Let's do this again in 7 days. Elbows up and turn it up, as this is the #1 folk station in Canada. 99.9 FM in Perth, Andover, and folkedupradio.com.